Wow, what a day it has been. Can we just, have 5 minutes to breathe? Because I felt like last week was super chaotic, last weekend, and now here we are, yet another weekend with utter chaos going on. Over the line, hanging out with you, big news. As you know, Joe Biden has officially dropped out of the race. So Tony Gump and I said, we got to get on top of it. We got to come to the people and try to get to the bottom of what happened. So we're going to give you all a moment to kind of pile in on all the different platforms. As you can see, my hair's down. I hadn't even put it up. I'm looking a little sus. But Tony Gump actually got ready for this in about 4.5 minutes.
I moved as fast as I could. I got the news. I'm like, let's get this going.
He's still breathing hard. He was all over the place. So, but we got in position. As a matter of fact, we had actually already planned on being here, but not this soon, because we got a new podcast coming up for you guys. So we're gonna have Rhonda Dial on our next podcast. So that's gonna be exciting. We're gonna get you all the stuff you need. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. So glad y'all are here on what is going to be a crazy time. One of the things Trish asked me once we heard, and I got a million texts, what happens now? Like, what route do they go? And I assume they're going to have to go with open convention, which is where the delegates, the representatives of the states, they go to the convention, cast their votes, and then they just duke it out, I guess.
Well, let's just be honest here. We both knew, and I think most of us knew Biden would not be the candidate. That was for certain. It's just who were they going to replace it with? We got Big Mike. We got the Hildebeest, as they called him. I just saw something in the chat. John says Leland called it 3 months ago. I'm sure he did. We all kind of saw this coming. They've been setting this up, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was interesting because obviously they all wanted him to go, and things got worse. Trump assassination attempt, everything was just getting really, really bad. I was wondering, I said this for a while, are they going to have time to do it? Because once you got to this point, it's going to be pure chaos for the next few weeks in the Democrat Party. I don't know what it's going to look like, but they've done it. They made it happen. I am kind of surprised that they were able to pull it off and to foreshadow this, because Joe Manchin said, I guess earlier last week, that we will have a clearer picture, talking about the Democrats, we will have a clearer picture about what we're going to be doing by the weekend. I think he even said Sunday. So there was a lot of people on Capitol Hill that were saying they were confident that this was going to happen today. My thing was, Joe Biden is a grade A narcissist. And the people that were trying to get him to stay in are grade A narcissists. That's Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, and whoever else is around him in his family, in his inner circle. And so that was the biggest obstacle that they faced, was getting Joe Biden to drop out. You got to I think this was on Gutfeld and one of his guests, and he said something along the lines of, yeah, Joe Biden's agreeing to drop out, but what's happening is they're getting in these meetings and they're asking Joe Biden, will you please drop out? Joe Biden says yes. And then the people start leaving and they say, hey, Joe, again, thanks for agreeing to do this. And Joe Biden says, agree to what? And then they have to start all over again, and then they just do it over and over for hours. That's actually probably what happened. Here is Joe Biden's official statement that he released just moments ago. He says that, click on the photo there, or the document. There you go. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman, but what is a woman, to the Supreme Court and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. Read that last part, that last paragraph, because I can't see that.
Oh, it has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today, what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do. When we do it together, we just have to remember we are the United States of America. And then it looks like Joseph Biden, I guess.
Yeah, look at that signature.
I know.
You think he actually signed that, or they had to get somebody else to do it?
I think he didn't write it, and I think he probably didn't even sign it either.
Yeah. I mean, this is the time of day he's usually asleep, right? I mean, did they even check with him, or did they say, hey, just pull the trigger, and then we'll just let him know when he woke up he made the decision. He won't remember if he did or not.
I think there were teams of people on all kinds of sides working out deals these past few days. They already know what they're going to do and what they're going to propose. It's just us to try to interpret what that's going to be, because we know it's going to go down to a few things. They're going to either have Gavin as an option, which I think can't win. Possibly Hillary, highest percentage in my opinion. I think their best chance for winning is Michelle Obama, Big Mike, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to sacrifice either Hillary or Gavin, and probably Hillary, because why would they want to lose a governor of California?
Yeah, there was an interesting trend over the past 24 hours where some of these big publications were putting in articles or op-eds about why Hillary Clinton needs to be the candidate, and everybody was like, wait a minute. There was even one that said that the Democrats should nominate Mitt Romney as kind of a middle of the road and bring Republicans over to the Democrat side. Like, it's insanity. But here's what's happened. Joe Biden has now officially endorsed Kamala Harris. This is breaking news. Kamala Harris as the candidate to replace him. He says, you got to go with this laughing yenta right here. Laughing Kamala, as Donald Trump calls her. So that's the MO of the White House. A big part of that, you got to understand, is the money part, because the money that the Biden camp has raised can be passed over to Kamala Harris. It can't be passed over to other candidates or other campaigns, so they've got to start over. No, now, I don't know how hard that would be, because the Biden big money donors are the ones that stopped sending money. That's where they met the end of the road. The money people said, we're not donating any more money until Joe Biden drops out, and he can't run off grassroots fundraising, because the grassroots people in the Democrat Party usually don't have jobs and don't have money to give. But with that said, those people will restart their donations and their money going to the super PACs for whoever the candidate is when they decide here in just a matter of, a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I just don't see them really caring about the money too much. They got so many people they know with billions of dollars. They could fund the thing just like Elon, just real quickly. I think it's just a matter of who it's going to be personally, because they just want to shock the system and make it such a big deal where everybody's talking about it, and they can hopefully rally around somebody like it's got to be a big event very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be fat, because I don't know that I ever remember in my lifetime or my time keeping up at politics, I don't remember a convention going down like this. There had been bickering back and forth about, in 2016 you had Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, and there was some hostility between the Bernie people and the Hillary people, but nothing like this, nothing where you're going into the convention and you have no idea who it's going to be. Like, and all the voters, think about this: if you're a Democrat primary voter, 90% of y'all have voted for Joe Biden. You voted for Joe Biden to be your nominee, and now here you are, days before your convention, and somebody else is picking the nominee. Isn't that the way it always goes with the Democrat Party, though?
Oh, for sure.
It's rigged.
What do you think of the odds that are actually going to go on with Kamala? Do you really think this is for real, or do you think this is just a temporary thing? I think so.
I don't know. I mean, part of me...
There's no way she can win. She's horrible.
No, I don't think so either. And she's not liked. She's not likable. And so it's all going to be about the money. Do they feel like they can raise the money or catch back up to Donald Trump if they start fresh? If they just throw all this Biden money in the dumpster? But listen, the Democrat Party is one giant money laundering operation in the first place. So it really shouldn't be that hard for them to get the money back up. I mean, they send money to Ukraine, it comes back around, they donate in people's names and everything else. So we've talked about that time and time again on the show. Let's go to ABC News. You
want to go straight live?
Yeah, let's go straight live and just see what the latest is, because it looks like they're talking about Kamala Harris now.
Background that could come out over the course of the campaign that could be detrimental. So there's very little time to do vetting here. And there's very little time to decide anyway, but to do the decision plus the vetting, Kamala Harris has to be thinking about this right now. And my hunch is, even though she didn't get that call from President Biden until just a short while ago that he was opting out of the race, my hunch is she's already been thinking about this.
John Carl, thank you. I want to go back to our ABC's
I hope it's her.
Martha Raddatz.
Yeah, that would be nice.
You have known President Biden for a very long time. You did that debate with him.
By the way,
back
Martha
in
Raddatz is an
2012.
awful human being.
So many Democrats that have come out and said that he is not essentially the same person. We even heard from.
By the way, Trish said she was unsubscribed to the channel. That happened to even me at one point.
When he saw him just a few weeks ago.
Unsubscribed?
Yeah, one day I looked at my YouTube and I was unsubscribed and I had to resubscribe.
Everybody, make sure you're subscribed to this channel.
I would have to say
especially
no.
if you're new.
I mean, based on what we have seen and seeing him on the campaign trail in 2012 during that debate with Paul Ryan, when it was vice presidential debate, obviously, he was sharp and funny and knew the issues inside and out and really dominated the debate. Over the years, things have really
Steve
changed.
Jones said, "Hey, now he didn't write that to the hell to the no."
Oh yeah, he didn't write that
Joe
statement.
Biden says, look at me. I will prove this." But he really isn't the same person now.
I mean, just days ago, Joe Biden was like, "I'm staying in the race. I'm not going anywhere."
Struggled. And Rachel, I think one of the moments truly that really was shocking after the debate is when the COVID announcement was made. We watched him go up those stairs to Air Force One. He had a great deal of trouble, very slowly.
Trump came out and said that Harris is easier to beat than Biden.
On the campaign
yeah, mute that for a second. So let's take a step back and look at the timeline here. So, what was it? 2 days ago, Joe Biden announces he's got COVID. You see him walking down the stairs there. You know that was the beginning, and a lot of people said that. They were like, "Oh, that's his way of saying he's going to drop out. He's got COVID." He said days before on BET that if he had a medical issue, he would drop out. They're all trying to. I mean, you got to understand the Bidens are so full of themselves that they want to go out on their own terms. Now, the question is, I mean, there's a million questions, but one of the questions are, what kind of deal did Joe Biden cut with the Democrat Party in order to bow out? Because you've got Hunter Biden, who still has his legal issues. You've got insurmountable corruption under Joe Biden's belt. He says he's finishing out his term, but he's just ending his re-election bid. Like, he demanded some sort of protections for him and his family.
Oh, yeah.
If he were to drop out. So what were those? Let me know. Come on. Because your first plan to protect the corruption and protect the people that have been involved in criminal activity in our government, your protection plan was to unalive Donald Trump, and it didn't work. So now they're having to come up with a plan B, and they it's just so crazy when you look at the last 7 days. What happened last Saturday, which was, a whirlwind for all of us. Last Saturday, Donald Trump was obviously getting more popular. A lot of that was based on Joe Biden's decline. It was on the reaction to the debate, right? Yeah. So Donald Trump was going up. Then they try to unalive the guy, and his polls shoot through the roof, supercharged from what they were after the debate. Then you've got this RNC where they knocked it out of the freaking park. And it's like the Democrat Party starts scrambling. They're like, we have no choice. Like, we are going to get pummeled, and we at least have to have a fighting chance. And I think there's a lot of them that think even with this, they're not going to win. But they want to. One of the things I always tell people to be cautious about is their ability or their desire to have an ability to tell the American people our candidate got this many votes because they're popular, or that there's a reason for it. You know what I always say? I'm like, Joe Biden, 81 million votes. Somehow they convinced a large portion of the public that it was reasonable for somebody like Joe Biden to get 81 million votes, more than anybody in history. But are they going to be able to do that again if they try the same tactics? Because Donald Trump's probably going to be the one getting 81 million votes next time, if not more.
Yeah.
Which means if they're going to attempt that again, they're going to have to get their candidate 100 million votes, and they're going to have to convince the American people that it's plausible that whoever that candidate is was able to garner more votes than anybody in history, including Joe Biden.
Yeah, I still think their only chance ever, just for everybody's a sacrificial lamb unless Michelle comes out of the closet. Runs for president, I just think she's the only one that's popular enough to even have a chance.
I had a friend just text me, and he said, how long is it going to be before Joe Biden or Hunter Biden gets a pardon from the big guy? And so, yeah. What do you think happens there? Do you think on his way? And it's not odd for a president on his way out, before Inauguration Day, to issue pardons to people for various reasons. You gotta know that that's going to happen with Hunter. But I guess the question is, does he do it now, since there's no political backlash that's going to affect him, since he's not running again, or does he wait till the end?
I didn't even think of that. That's a good one. And who else is he going to pardon at the last second? Because he's got nothing to lose, But
how do you? I guess the question here is, you can't pardon someone that hasn't been convicted of something. I guess Hunter has been convicted on one thing, but he's got other ones coming up. So does Joe Biden wait for the tax case to play itself out before he issues the pardon? I don't know. This is wild.
Well, I'm sure whatever deals were made, I'm sure a lot of it had to do with his family, but mainly for his own protection from things that he's done.
Right.
Even though he has immunity and all that, there's just so much behind the scenes we don't know. And even I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I even think there's a 1% chance that they put out this letter and they put out his tweet and they signed his name and he was told about it after the fact.
Right. Probably
wouldn't surprise me.
Let's go. They got their White House correspondent here at ABC. Let's go to that for a quick minute.
So let's be clear here. Kamala Harris was tasked by President Biden to tackle the root causes of immigration. She was never put in charge of border security, despite the argument that
you're making excuses for the border.
I suspect you're going to continue
her being the border
to hear
czar.
From Republicans. They see that as a real political opportunity for them to try and take some hits at Kamala Harris.
I think her job is to get as many here as she could, not to stop them.
Of immigration and the root causes of
her
that.
job is to hop to a Willie Brown.
Owned and dominated over the last year. In fact, I spent a whole day out on the trail with her several months ago where she was out just hammering this point. She has
Jim says he didn't think Biden had COVID at all. I agree.
That's
possible.
How Donald Trump has bragged about appointing 3 of the Supreme Court justices who overturned that decision. And they have argued that all of these restrictions that we are seeing put in place across the country are Donald Trump's fault. That is an argument you are going to continue to hear.
Yeah, the
Vice
border's
President
broken
Harris,
because of Donald
perhaps,
Trump, right?
Nominee Harris make in the
you
future.
think they do
But there are just a
25th Amendment,
lot of
or they let
questions
them
here
run it out
still to
till
unpack before
January?
You can even imagine, how all of this
Honestly,
these changes will change the actual campaigns.
Based on how hard it was for them to get him out the door with this situation,
a lot of questions about
I don't think they would go that route. I think they are legitimately going to ride it out with
Definitely,
him.
Mary. Thank you.
And just let him be a lame duck
our
president.
Director and our Washington bureau chief, Rick Klein, because Mary does make
Good
a really
point.
good point here. We've heard from President Biden, but we have yet to hear from Vice President Kamala Harris, Rick.
Technically, she hasn't even announced that she is a candidate for president, and that is a glaring omission from the discourse at this very fluid moment.
Interesting.
Keep in mind that up until about an hour ago, everyone in the Democratic Party was making plans to have a convention in Chicago that would do what conventions always do, which is to nominate the person who won the most delegates. Joe Biden won almost all of the delegates. Something like 97% of the delegates were Biden delegates. In fact, the Democratic National Committee was doing a Zoom call to iron out the details of what would have been a virtual roll call to lock down the nomination for him.
Well,
as early as
Biden
the
didn't
first
spill the
week
beans
of
on
August.
Obama, if you know what I mean.
While that call was going on, they got the news.
By the way,
You know what I mean.
Biden's
Yeah,
statement.
there
So at
is.
that
All
time, just
right,
getting
let's
some
mute this.
reporting on
So
it.
here's again what's fascinating is it seems like everybody in the Democrat Party was on the same page in the sense of thinking everything was going ahead. I mean, Kamala's out there, Joe Biden's out there. Everybody's like, hey, it's fine. We're good. We're going to keep running, blah, blah, blah. And the people that run the convention, even they were like, hey, we'll just keep on keeping on. We're gonna vote Joe Biden and do what we do. And apparently not. Which makes me think that maybe this was a last-minute decision that just happened today. Or maybe not.
Probably not.
Because, I don't know.
Dude, they've been having meetings day and night. You know, this is teams of people making these decisions, not just a few people in a room like a family. Guarantee.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. I think they were just keeping it pretty tight-lipped because you saw reports of Chuck Schumer coming out and he was saying Biden should drop out, and then they retracted that, and Schumer's like, I didn't say that. You never really heard anything forceful from Nancy Pelosi, which was kind of the end-all, be-all for everybody. And I think Nancy Pelosi was probably one of the top people behind the scenes working it.
Oh, yeah.
So she didn't have to come out and say that. Because, listen, if you're a Democrat and you came out and said Joe Biden needs to step down after you've defended the guy for 4 years and told us he was perfectly fine, you look like an idiot. So none of these people wanted to do that, especially the high profiles. And but they just, once they get backed into a corner, it's like, what?
Yeah.
So who's going to be? Let's ask the chat. Thank you, everybody, hanging out with us on all the platforms. We're on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. Who do you guys think is going to be the nominee? Who do y'all think we're going to go with? And I know everybody's got a different opinion, but just give me, this is for the line audience, the over-the-line audience. Who do y'all think it's going to be? Now, Tony Gump says that not that this is who it's going to be, but he says the biggest home run for them would be Big Mike, which I tend to agree with that, too.
I don't think they'll do it, but if they truly wanted to win, I think they would go with that. But I think they know it's going to be a sacrificial lamb, whoever it is. So why take a senator or governor out of their position they hold right now?
Yeah, because now think about it outside of who the Dems want, and think about it from the actual candidate themselves. You are starting way behind the starting line. I mean, you're starting way back, and your chances seem to be pretty small right now, even though anything could happen down the road. Which one of these candidates want to start their presidential career with an L? You know, it almost seems like it's too big of a risk, especially for the younger people that can easily run again in 4 years. Do they want to throw their hat in the ring on this one? Or do they want to say, hey, just put Kamala in there, let her take the L, and let's move on?
Yeah, Evan thinks Gavin Newsom. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Richard, David, Michael, we see all. We got Bama in the house. The Box, John from Twitter, AB from Twitter. A lot of people, thanks for hanging out.
Thank y'all for hanging out with us. So we just kind of did this on a whim, but we're trying to make a habit of jumping on here. We'd already planned a podcast. It's going to be released probably, when did that come out? Maybe tomorrow morning?
Possibly, yeah.
We'll drop that tomorrow morning, and then y'all can have it. We're going to have our homegirl, Rhonda Dial. We're gonna get Rhonda Dial to tell us what herbs you can take for dementia when you drop out of a presidential race. There was Tony, if you'll go to, we'll just cut that ABC feed off just for a second and go to my Twitter feed, which is all the way on the right, and scroll down those likes. And keep going. I want to show you something real quick. Oh, right there.
That one.
You've already seen that. Did I send that to you?
You sent it to me this morning, yeah.
Okay, so I don't have any contacts for this, but this is from 2007, and I'm just bringing this up because we're talking about Big Mike, where Obama and Joe Biden were duking it out for the Democrat nomination. And Joe Biden starts talking about Obama getting tested for AIDS. And so he's kind of like, wait, what? What is going on? Watch this. This is real.
I know Barack got tested for AIDS. There's no shame in being tested for AIDS. It's an important thing because the fact of the matter is in the community's engaged in denial.
Whoa.
They're engaged in denial. No one wants to talk about it in the community, and we do not have enough leaders in the community and outside the community demanding we face the reality, confront the men in the community as well as the women.
I'd be like, please don't put the camera on me during this conversation.
Thank you.
Look at Al Sharpton.
He knows. They all know.
Wait, did you? Wait, hold on. Here's.
To make clear, I got tested with Michelle.
I bet you did.
Oh yeah.
When we were in Kenya and Africa, so I want to.
All right.
I bet you did.
All right.
You know, Big Mike. So if you notice,
to save my life because I had 13 pints of blood
with my wife,
and I'm sure Michelle appreciates you clarifying
in public.
Oh my God! So if you notice when he's just let that keep playing for a second, just keep it muted. But I want you to watch Hillary Clinton's head nodding in the background as they cut to that different camera angle. Watch. So Joe Biden's like, Barack's been tested for AIDS. Look at her. Look at her nodding her head.
Dude, they all know. They all know.
She's like, do you know how many STD tests I have to take in order to stay married to Bill Clinton? I take them on a daily basis.
Joan Rivers was right. So what? Just come out and say it. Nobody really cares. It's more a big deal because they've been hiding it.
Yeah, for the fact it's the fact that you promote the trans community and just the whole LGBTQIA deal so much. Like, why are you ashamed of, your own deal?
That's part of the reason why I thought they were going to run Michelle is because of what they've been preparing us all for, like to accept all this stuff and,
Yeah.
And not that we personally care, just it's all in your face the past few years.
Yeah, I mean, if Michelle Obama was just a regular citizen and wanted to be trans and just live their life and not bother anybody, nobody cares about that. But if you try to be president or you try to push that impression on the children, which you would do if you became president, that's kind of a problem. But I don't know. Whatever y'all think, it's going to be fascinating. We just it's just going to get. Let's go back to this for a moment. Biden endorses Harris. Time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. Good luck.
Bear something in common. All of these statements we have heard from Gavin Newsom in California, from Gretchen Whitmer, from Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania.
Gretchen.
All of them praising President Biden. Let me read you some of this. Josh Shapiro saying the president is a patriot who served our country honorably in the Senate and as vice president, and is one of the most consequential presidents in modern history. He's gotten an incredible amount done to move our country forward,
Preston
defend our
says
democracy, and protect real freedom, saying he's proud to work by his side and grateful for his leadership. Gavin Newsom saying something, very similar, describing President Biden as a leader who's fought hard for working people and delivered astonishing results for all Americans. What they aren't talking about here, and guaranteed it is very early in this discussion, is Kamala Harris and whether they would then support.
Shout out to Teresa, Bridget, Weedhopper, and Silver Tears.
The top of the ticket, because of course there's been a lot of question about whether these other governors would be interested in jumping into the race or possibly would like to be a vice presidential pick where Kamala Harris.
Okay, so that's ABC's correspondent kind of giving you the rundown of who the people might be. And I'm going to be honest. I mean, I know a lot of y'all look to me to say, what's going to happen next. I don't always know. I mean, I probably don't know more than I do know as far as predicting the future, even though I claim to be the Miss Cleo of radio.
Call me now.
Call me now for the free reading. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, you've been Trump since day one, and it's looking like a landslide. I think their only prayer is what I said before, and also all these millions of illegal registered federal voters.
Yeah, I think you're right.
A little scared of that. Little bit scared.
Yeah, they gotta be on top of that. Now, outside of this, because there's only so much we can say about the dropping out of Joe Biden. There was some more news popped up this morning on Maria Bartiromo's show. Now, y'all know Maria Bartiromo. She's on Fox News, and she does a Sunday morning show. Yeah. She brings on Senator Ron Johnson. And, yeah, go back to what we were looking at a minute ago on the like list. She had Ron Johnson on, and they were talking about this strange situation where when the body, after they killed the shooter in Pennsylvania, that as local law enforcement were up there assessing the scene, some guy showed up in a gray suit and told them to text the pictures of the body to a particular cell phone. And they didn't know who it was.
That a lot of these governors...
They just assumed...
My staff...
Sorry about that.
They assumed that it was somebody with the FBI or the Secret Service and didn't really ask any questions, but they sent the pictures. And now everybody's like, wait, what in the Sam Hill is going on? Here is that clip from earlier this morning. Watch this.
My staff immediately started reaching out to local law enforcement. We've gathered a fair amount of information. Again, we're just scratching the surface. But a couple of things that we found out. For example, the Secret Service did not even attend the 9 o'clock security meeting with local law enforcement. Pretty well put in charge the Butler County law enforcement to coordinate things. Law enforcement wasn't even on the same channel.
So that was
SWAT and sniper teams.
Just to be clear, Senator, that was a 9 a.m. meeting on July 13th, the day of the shooting.
Correct.
Secret Service
Secret Service had been there for site visits, weren't even there. Kind of turned over some of the outer perimeter stuff to local law enforcement. They weren't even on the same security channel. So the sniper and SWAT teams weren't on the same channel as the patrol officers, and they weren't on the same channel as Secret Service. So they had to relay things. One of the things we found out is that we've got a more detailed timeline. This picture is now on the internet, but a photo was taken by the local sniper team in the AGR building at 5:14 of Crooks. So again, we had pictures of this guy. Why wasn't he intercepted? There's so many unanswered questions here.
The pictures were taken at 5:14, and he was shot at 6:11.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, we've got a more so I'm going to be issuing a preliminary report. It's preliminary. It's just scratching the surface. We're primarily going to release that report to solicit more eyewitness testimony. If you took video, save it. Make a backup copy. We can glean things in terms of audio and in terms of where the shots came from. Was it one rifle? Was it more than one? I've seen some pretty interesting video on the internet by experts that certainly calls into question what the FBI is telling us about a single shooter. Again, we're only just beginning this, but it is so important that people who saw things, that have information, they preserve it, they memorialize what they saw, because memories change over time. They can be influenced. So it's good news on a bipartisan basis. Chairman Blumenthal and I are dedicated to taking transcribed interviews with law enforcement and public, just members of the general public that were at that rally. No matter how insignificant your piece of information might be, it might lend to provide the full story of what happened, because the American public needs to understand what happened here.
So I know that, I tweeted out yesterday the fact that you're doing this bipartisan investigation, and I put on your email. You have an email that you want people to send information to, and I know that you'll tweet that later. But I got to get to this. After the shooter was taken down by Secret Service, the local law enforcement, and I know this from some of your preliminary comments, your preliminary findings, started taking pictures of the dead body, right? Can you tell us what happened then?
Here we go.
Correct. So that sniper team that was in the AGR building, they're the first ones that went up on the roof. They were the first to encounter the dead assassin at that point in time. Later on, other people joined them, and somebody told them to send the pictures they had taken to an ATF agent, which I think is very strange. And we called up that ATF agent. That individual said that he was with ATF, and now he's gone dark. We've also reached out to the Secret Service agents in charge on the ground. All we're getting there is the runaround. So we are getting information from local law enforcement, and we appreciate that. But unfortunately, federal law enforcement agents, they're just saying, well, go through your congressional liaison. Again, that's going to be unacceptable. I wish I could rely and have faith in the FBI and the Secret Service to do a truthful accounting of this, but that's not been my experience with the Russian collusion hoax, and for years dealing with federal law enforcement. We need completely separate and independent investigations, and it has to start now.
So are you questioning whether or not there was a second shooter? Is that what you're questioning, or if the shooter had a different gun?
I saw an extremely convincing video online. I know it's all over the place. There were 3 distinct shots early on, followed by another 5 in more staccato, more rapidly fired, and then the final one, which we believe took the shooter out. How do you explain that? I don't know. I'm not an expert. But the individual putting that video out says it's clearly...
There's that. All right, multiple things here. One, you had the guy who told the local law enforcement to send pictures to his cell phone. And now he's just all of a sudden gone dark. He won't talk to congressional. By the way, check your email. I got you one more thing in there.
Okay.
He's gone dark. They're trying to figure out what in the world's going on with there. The federal authorities, Secret Service, by the direction of the Secret Service head and FBI, they won't work with Congress. They won't give them any information. After a presidential candidate was almost killed, federal authorities won't answer questions from Congress. Second thing, the local PD, the regular guys, the guys that would work in your communities, they are, in fact, working with Congress. They don't have anything to hide. They were going at the direction of the Secret Service, who seemingly, at least from their account, didn't have a lot of interest in making sure that everything was on the up and up. They're supposed to all have kind of contact with each other. There's some differences, and I'll talk about this on the radio tomorrow. Differences between Secret Service radios and local police radios, but they still got to be in contact to an extent. So you've got that going on. Then Ron Johnson says something about possibly multiple shooters. Now think about the twist that would throw in, the wrench that would throw in to this whole story. That would be... because there's video out there, and I don't want to say it's compelling, or I don't want to say it's not compelling. People saying that there was a guy on the water tower and different things. So I know Tony Gump's seen that. It's there's very grainy video. There's other people saying, I saw this, I saw that. But when you go and you listen to the shots that were taken on that day, there was one guy in particular who is some sort of sound expert. I guess he just knows a lot. I don't know who the guy is, but he's got somewhat of a following.
Is that what you want me to play?
Yes. And so he goes through the sounds of the different gunshots. He's got a long video. It's like 30 minutes long, but this is one portion that I want y'all to see, and why I say that this idea that there's more than one shooter is maybe a little more legitimate than most people are willing to give credit to.
Okay, so the audio from video one, when we look at it here, the first three shots we can make complete sense of. Okay, fine. Then there's a fourth shot that arrives, and it does so with the bullet in a report at 0.212 seconds, close enough for government work here, or rough analysis. Here's another bullet and a report, so that's the snap, crack. There's echoes. We see there's echoes, so the bullet makes a k, and then the sound is echoing, probably off of one of the buildings. We have a lot of flat surfaces back there. So the microphone is here, supersonic crack, and the crack makes it to the microphone, and then it echoes off of something. And so we see the
Hunter Biden just perked up.
Yeah.
Echo. We can
Somebody say crack.
very, very accurately estimate how far away that.
Remind me
flat
to talk
surface
about
is,
Mark's
off of that echo,
chat
and then
after
you get
this.
the report
Gotcha.
itself. Crack thump, crack thump. So shots 4 and 5, I'm still pretty good with shots 4 and 5 in terms of being able to make sense of them. From 6 on, man, it gets all kinds of weird. And I'm not going to take you through the weirdness from video 1. To try and resolve what's happening with those other shots, we're now going to turn to video 2. This really clarifies everything and makes the entire case. So we'll listen to it up through the shots, which is about 20 seconds of tape. Yeah, I won't take you through all the screaming and everything. And by the way, not for nothing, but screaming, I don't understand people who just start screaming and then just don't stop in an event like this. So listen past this. It's there's a lot of screaming going on, but you can clearly hear shots 1, 2, and 3, and then you can hear the other string of shots come out. We're going to analyze it. I'll break it down. We'll take a look at it. However, I do want to pre-stage this a little bit, and for yourself, decide for yourself, does 1, 2, and 3, do they sound the same at all compared to the other ones that you hear? Okay, and remember, we already have the analysis from audio experts elsewhere saying there's a difference between weapon A and weapon B. And I can show you that the rounds fired from weapon B were also aimed at the stage. Okay, so this is important. 2 weapons, one fires a string of 3, another fires a string of 5 or 6, depending on how we count, and off they go. And they were also out hitting the crowd and headed towards Trump. Okay, this is important because now we do not have a lone gunman anymore. Okay, so listen up. Here we go.
Whoa.
And then that one more. That's the 6 I'm unclear on. Let's listen to
That's 2 different firearms.
Yeah.
Muffled, and then right? That's what I hear.
It is a different gun.
And a lot of screaming. Okay, so let's analyze this now. Let's go into this with a little bit more depth. So
okay, so we don't have to go too far with that because he keeps going, but it's a very fascinating video. Y'all need to go watch that on Twitter.
Wow.
And so I didn't really think a lot about it because I saw some pretty convincing 3D models some people had put out that helped to make sense of where the bullets came from and why they hit, who they hit, yada, yada, yada. But, I mean, when you're looking at the audio of this stuff, you can't help but say to yourself, what's going on here? Because, again, I mean, there's nothing that's impossible at this point. Do we want to go back to ABC real quick? She seems to be reading something. Anytime they're reading off their phone, that usually means there's some sort of big breaking or new news when it comes to what they're talking about.
The president reached out and spoke with Democratic leader Chuck Schumer earlier today. We are also now hearing from former Speaker Nancy Pelosi for the first time. In a statement, praising President Biden, saying he's a patriotic American who has always put our country first. His legacy,
See, Nancy
vision,
never had to
values, and
trash
leadership
him.
makes him one of the most consequential presidents in American history.
Look at his
She
face.
says with love and gratitude to President Biden for always believing in the promise of America and giving people the opportunity to reach their fulfillment. Nancy Pelosi, though, not mentioning Kamala Harris at all in her statement. We will have to wait and see if that changes in the coming hours. Rachel.
Mary, thank you. And I want to bring in our political director and our Washington bureau chief, Rick Klein. Rick, so much to be said about former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, because leading into this, as these discussions were playing out privately behind closed doors.
Again, Nancy Pelosi didn't want to be one of the people to come out and say that Joe Biden needed to step down because she didn't want to contradict herself if she didn't have to, at least on that. I mean, she's in the business of contradicting herself, but there's just certain levels you don't want to do it at. And so she was able to just kind of sit back, let everybody else do the dirty work, and now that Joe Biden's stepping down, she's like, he was such a good leader. He's the best president we've ever had.
Okay, so we got two things here. Mike earlier in the chat said, okay, Michelle Obama, blah, blah, blah. Then he talked about Barack being appointed as a VP. And legally, from what I did my research, they could have Barack Obama as the vice president on the ticket. So you could literally have a Hillary Barack ticket or Kamala Barack ticket or anything Barack ticket. And if something happened to the president, I believe the Speaker of the House would come up or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Speaker of the House will be third in line.
Think about that, though. Barack is the VP. That would fire up the liberal base.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Barack Obama's still got a lot of sway with a lot of Democrats and a lot of moderates. It's just I tend to, when it comes to the Obamas, I go back to them on a personal level in the sense of, would they be willing to do that? Barack Obama has made it clear he likes running the country, but from behind the scenes, because he can do more extreme stuff that way and not have to take the heat for it. That's what went on with this. But at the same time, you had rifts between, the Biden family and the Obama family. Michelle Obama doesn't like the Biden. She thinks they're white trash, which they are, and all these different scenarios. I don't really know what the relationship between the Obamas and the Clintons are, though. I mean, as far as I know, it would be fine. And I don't know what the relationship is with Kamala Harris, but what it feels like is that Joe Biden was a lot like Kamala Harris, or vice versa. Kamala Harris was a lot like Joe Biden in the sense of people in Washington didn't really take her that seriously because she's an idiot. And so was Joe Biden, even though he was a nice guy and everybody was friends with him. On a professional level, they all kind of made fun of him. They're like, this dude's an F up. So I don't know. It's hard for me to think that the DNC would allow Kamala, even though Joe is endorsing her, that the DNC is going to go forward with Kamala without understanding the repercussions. I think they can do it. I don't know.
Well, see, I think the people up top above these people that really make the decisions on what goes on, I think it's going to come down to whatever they want. And these people pretty much have to do what they say, as far as I'm concerned. And something else on the chat, Boomer said earlier, I think he's talking about the attempt on Donald J. He says Donald J. Trump just put out on YouTube that Kamala was in on it. And then he reemphasized and said, you need to look that up.
Good.
Have you heard anything about that?
Kamala was in on what?
I'm not sure if he's talking about Biden dropping out or if he's talking about the shots fired.
Yeah, he's probably referring to Kamala being part of the coup to get Joe Biden out there. Kamala does not have enough brain cells.
Well, I'm going to humor him and
involved.
look it up real quick just to see what's going on here.
It's again, I don't know what direction it's going to go, but I think it's hilarious for people that vote in the Democrat primaries to yet again get screwed over, as they always do. And you got to understand that at some point. Now, this election, we had a lot of Democrats voting in Republican primaries, so they didn't technically get screwed over because they weren't even involved. They went with the Republican ticket, but yet again, another election cycle, and the voters in the Democrat Party are not getting to choose their candidate. It happened with Hillary. It really happened with Joe Biden. They always direct the band. They always pick their own candidates, and nobody has a say-so in any of it. Ever.
I found what he's talking about, I think. This right here. Check this out.
Kamala was in on it.
Sorry, 1 second. Let me fix
We'll just
that.
back out real quick.
I got too many videos going at once here.
We got
Hold
too
on.
many. This is what happens when we go live. We got too many things going.
All right, I'm going to set this up.
So this is Kamala was in on it. Is this a post put out by the Trump campaign?
Yes, it's strictly from Donald Trump's thing.
Kamala was in on it. She covered up Joe's obvious mental decline.
Our president is in good shape, in good health, tireless, vibrant, and I have no doubt about the strength of the work that we have done.
But Kamala knew Joe couldn't do the job, so she did it.
Thanks, John York.
Look what she got done. A border invasion, runaway inflation, the American dream dead. They created this mess. Kamala owns this failed record. Make America Great Again, Inc. is responsible for the content of this
I
advertisement.
actually think I saw that ad. It's just re-emphasizing that Kamala was in on covering up Joe's health issues, just like the entire Democrat Party. I mean, we all saw it. Even the voters saw it, but they hated Trump so much they just kept this narrative that Joe's okay. He's okay. He's old, but Donald Trump's old too. They're the same. It's like Joy Reid said the other day. She said, if Joe Biden beats COVID, it should be viewed as a sign of strength, just as Donald Trump being shot was viewed as a sign of strength. Because it's the same thing. Beating COVID in 2024 is essentially the same as getting shot. Even when you've been jabbed with the deal. We're going to have to wrap it up here in a minute, but let's just go back here to see if we got any updates on the big dropout.
Well, obviously they looked at the polls. They liked what they saw in the polls, especially in recent days against President Biden. And yet what they're really trying to do is just muck up as much as possible the works for Democrats as they go forward in this unprecedented situation. Look at the convention. Right, the rules of the convention are pretty simple at this point. If President Biden releases his delegates, they don't have to support Kamala Harris. The only thing they have to do under Rule 13J, which you're going to hear a lot about probably, is vote their conscience. In good conscience, they must vote to support a candidate. So if there's anyone who wants to challenge Kamala Harris, there'll be these test votes on accepting those rules, and then you'd head to the floor. But as for the Republican efforts to sue their way to keep Harris off of state ballots, that's probably just an effort, to make the Democrats look disorganized. There's also been talk of impeaching President Biden on the grounds that he is now incompetent to serve if he's incompetent to run. Again, almost certainly wouldn't happen, and yet would muck up the works. So expect to see the Republicans take as much advantage of the chaos here, even though they are concerned about the redefinition of this race. Look how fast politics moves.
Okay, so here's another aspect, is how do Republicans respond to this? Because this ABC correspondent seems to think that Republicans may be murmuring about impeachment now just to cause more chaos, and using the argument of, well, if he can't run for re-election, he can't be president, which has been the case for 3.5 years. But in order to cause more chaos to the opponent, do they do that? I don't think the Republicans are that concerned about who the nominee is going to be. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think they care. I think we're in such a good spot that they're just like, tell us who it is so we can get this party started.
Yeah, Brady's saying the Clintons are now backing Kamala, and also that tells us that the Hildebeest isn't going to run.
Which was weird because these op-eds kept coming out all weekend about Hillary Clinton this, we need Hillary. And when that happens, those usually don't happen organically. It's somebody out of that camp pushing that op-ed and trying to get it in people's heads. But if the Clintons are backing Obama, if the Clintons are backing Kamala, should I say, you might have Kamala in on it. I don't know that Nancy Pelosi said anything, but if Nancy does, if Chuck Schumer does, Donald Trump versus Kamala in November? Really? I'm not trying to get out ahead of my skis or count my chickens before they hatch. But, I mean, come on.
Yeah, heels up Harris.
The heels up Harris. Okay. That would, you could actually, you know how the Hawk-Tuah thing happened, you know, and it's a little old at this point. But when that happened, they started putting out all this merchandise, and they did the old campaign slogans, you know, where it's like Hawk-Tuah 24. I mean, technically, Kamala Harris could adopt that and use it for her campaign. If it is Kamala Harris, who's the VP? So let's eliminate the Obamas and let's put it in the category of one of these younger up and coming Democrats. Who does she pick?
Hakeem Jeffries seems like they're trying to position him for something really big later on. That's my personal opinion. There's lots of choices, but I think they know they're going to lose, and I think these are sacrificial lambs, so I don't think they're going to pull out any important senator or governor that are controlling something at this moment, because I think their strategy is going to be retain the House or things like that. I think they know the presidency's gone. That's my personal opinion, unless they can get Big Mike.
Yeah, I think they're kind of in that frame of mind, too. What if they go Kamala and Gretchen Whitmer with an all-female ticket and they hang their hat on this abortion issue? Because they're still out there saying that Trump wants a federal abortion ban, and he's over here like, no, I don't. What are you talking about? They may go that route and just make that the centerpiece of their campaign.
I think Trump's got this. It should be a landslide. We'll see how many illegals can vote.
I don't know. But I want to thank everybody for hanging out. My buddy Big John, Bama Phoenix, Brady. I talked to Brady today, actually, as soon as Joe Biden dropped out. My buddy Opie in the house. Who else is in here?
We got Chris Doc Banks in the house.
We got hundreds of y'all.
Tracy. Yeah, there's a lot of people who've been texting. Tommy Mitchell's back. Richard the cop. Weed Hopper. There's lots.
Yeah, Weed Hopper. That's Brian. The
There's
beef
a
jerky
Christopher
guy.
Atkinson.
Yeah, thank y'all for hanging out across all the platforms. We yet again, like we did the other night, hundreds of people in here, and doing this live stuff is kind of new for us. We haven't been doing it, but we want to make sure when there's breaking news between this podcast and the radio station, we're going to come to you guys in some sort of capacity. So if you're not subscribed to this channel, whatever channel you're on, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, make sure you're following us and all that jazz, and check us out on the radio. Talk995.com, Monday through Friday, middle of the day. Can't beat it, cuzzy. We're about to get ready for a different podcast that will be released very, very soon, so y'all be on the lookout for that. And we'll wrap it up. Until next time, see you guys!